Welcome, focused learners, to another explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. In this explainer, we're going to unpack a profound, yet honestly, often overlooked paradigm shift in how we view education, teaching, and most importantly, the learner. We're exploring a really fascinating source text titled "The Child as the Compass of Education." Now, if you've ever sat there and wondered why some educational methods just kind of fall flat, or how we should truly measure a teacher's success, well, you are in exactly the right place. So get comfortable, focus in, and let's explore.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right out of the gate, the author throws down a massive challenge to traditional educational priorities. They state, it's not the method that matters most, but the child. Now, I know, it sounds incredibly simple, right? Almost like common sense. But as we're going to see throughout this explainer, actually applying this philosophy means pretty much flipping the entire traditional classroom model completely on its head. The core thesis here is that historically, we've become way too fixated on how we teach rather than who we're teaching.
So let's look at Section 1, a misunderstood thesis.
This isn't exactly a brand new revelation. Way back in 1994, a time when dial-up internet was still a luxury for most of us, the author wrote their very first thesis on the absolute necessity of child-centered or learner-centered education. But here is the frustrating reality they point out. Decades later, today, teachers still widely misunderstand the concept. In fact, the author humorously notes that back in 1994, apart from their own psychology teacher, literally hardly anyone understood what the thesis was even about. Time has passed, we've seen countless new methodologies emerge, yet this absolutely foundational concept remains wildly misunderstood.
The original goal was straightforward, though not necessarily easy. The aim was to look past rigid, one-size-fits-all frameworks and actually integrate children's real needs right into the teaching and learning process. It's all about using a smart blend of psychological, pedagogical, and methodological approaches. The source isn't saying we should just toss methodology out the window. Not at all. Methodology is important. It's just stating that the method is never, ever more important than the actual human child sitting at that desk.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. Who fails when students fail?
And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental divide in educational philosophy. On one hand, we have teaching the curriculum. This is your traditional mindset where the main goal is simply to power through the material before the bell rings. On the other hand, we have teaching the child. According to our source material, a truly good teacher focuses on teaching the actual, living, breathing student in front of them, not merely the curriculum itself. I mean, it's a subtle shift in wording, sure, but it is a monumental shift in everyday practice.
This brings us to a very firm, highly provocative stance the author takes regarding what happens when this traditional approach falls short. They write, "If a student is unable to master the material, it is not the student's fault. It is due to the shortcomings of the educational system and the teaching profession. Our role in this explainer is just to report this framework impartially, and wow, this is a major pillar of their argument. The author firmly places the responsibility for academic failure squarely on the shoulders of the system and the profession, entirely removing the blame from the learner."
So why does the author believe this system is at fault? Well, it stems from a core foundational belief: all mentally healthy children are capable learners, period. And importantly, the source explicitly includes students with ADHD and students with dyslexia right in this category. The text absolutely insists that these children are fully capable of acquiring knowledge, learning skills, and applying them. The vital catch here: they are capable of doing this in their own entirely unique way. So if a capable learner isn't learning, the logic dictates that it's the delivery method that's broken, definitely not the student.
This takes us to Section 3, custom-made education.
To actually pull off custom-made education, we first have to totally redefine what makes a teacher good. The text defines good teaching as being reflected in the results of teaching, meaning the learner, not merely in methodological preparation or subject knowledge. Think about it. A teacher could be incredibly well trained in the latest methods or be deeply knowledgeable about their subject matter, but that doesn't automatically mean they can teach well. Knowing your subject inside out means nothing if the student sitting right in front of you doesn't actually learn it. The true, ultimate result is the child.
And this naturally leads to a strict, non-negotiable rule for the classroom. A teacher might be incredibly passionate, deeply committed to a specific, super trendy educational methodology. But if that methodology does not work for a learner, the teacher must change their approach. They have to adopt a different one. No exceptions. Loyalty to a method can never, ever supersede the success of the student. If the tool is failing the student, you drop the tool and find a new one.
So the crucial point is this. There is simply no single methodology that works well for every child. The author really stresses that methodologies have to be adapted to situations, and our expectations must be perfectly aligned with a student's unique abilities. Because there's no magic bullet, a teacher needs a massive, versatile toolbox. They need strong methodological and pedagogical knowledge just so they can pull out the exact right tool at the exact right time. Honestly, this is the very definition of custom-made or truly personalized education.
Moving to our final section, Section 4, Facilitating over Delivering.
So, what does this actually look like on a random Tuesday morning in the classroom? Well, the author outlines 2 absolutely essential steps. Step 1, the teacher's most important task is to assess the methodological needs of the children. They have to read the room, understand the individuals, and figure out what these specific students actually require. Step 2, they must adapt the learning and teaching processes accordingly. It's an active, relentless, ongoing process of assessment and adaptation. It never really stops.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it totally reframes the ultimate purpose of the educator. The old standard model is just delivering the curriculum, kind of like a human conveyor belt, right? Just mindlessly dropping off packages of facts. The author's vision, however, is facilitating learning. The text is super clear that a teacher's real job is not to just hand over information, but to facilitate. And how do they define that? To make learning easier through the smart application of the appropriate methodological tools. The teacher is a guide, making the path clear, definitely not a machine just reciting facts.
And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our journey today. It leaves us with a really critical question to chew on. Is your educational compass pointing toward the curriculum or the child? The author of this text has given us an incredibly powerful framework that challenges us to fundamentally reevaluate what happens inside a classroom. Because if the focus is truly on the child, then the methods have to flex, the blame for failure shifts back to the system, and the teacher becomes a true facilitator, making learning easier. It's a profound paradigm shift for sure. As you lead this explainer today, I want you to really think about your own learning experiences, or maybe the experiences of the kids in your life. When you evaluate educational success moving forward, where will your compass point? Thank you so much for focusing in with me today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.